আজকের এই বিশেষ অনুষ্ঠানটি আমরা সাজিয়েছি 1971 সনের মহান মুক্তিযুদ্ধে একজন মহান ব্যক্তি যিনি বাংলাদেশের মুক্তিযুদ্ধের সাথে ওতপ্রোতভাবে জড়িত ছিলেন। তিনি আমাদের বাঙালি কেউ নন, তিনি প্রবাসী আমেরিকান একজন আমেরিকান, যে কিনা মহান স্বাধীনতা যুদ্ধে তার সম্পৃক্ততা সম্পূর্ণভাবে উপস্থাপন করেছেন। সেই গৌরবগাথা গল্পটা নিয়ে আজকে আমরা ইনভাইটেশন করেছি, দাওয়াত করেছি মিস্টার বিল ফিঙ্কলকে। তো আজকে আমি তাকে এই অনুষ্ঠানে উপস্থাপন করার চেষ্টা করতেছি। আপনারা আমাদের সাথেই থাকবেন। Good morning, Mr. Bill. How are you?
Good morning to you, Kabir.
Thank you. Thank you. Very good to see you. I know you are from California. I'm from New Jersey. There is a time difference, and also in Bangladesh, it's in night, almost midnight. So, you know, we are so glad. We are so happy. We are so proud. You are such a great journalist, famous journalist. When in 1971, Bangladeshi people when fought against Pakistan. That time you was a student in university, and you sold your car and went to Calcutta and then went to Bangladesh to help the people, those who are suffering cholera disease. And later on, turn around, you joined as a journalist and took a lot of pictures, try to help the Mukti Bahini and stuffs. Today we want to hear all of those stuffs from you. The viewers, Mr. Bill, let me tell you that his background, he was a student at MIT, and like many people become emotionally involved in the stories of atrocities by Pakistani army in Bangladesh. He decided to try to do something, so that he sold his car and got a ticket and went to Calcutta. From there, he was part of a group of 3 Westerns and 16 Bangladeshi refugees who returned to Bangladesh to work on a cholera relief effort to address an epidemic in a rural area near Khulna. Once in Bangladesh, we were successful yet. You are picked up by the Indian army as they did not want any Western in the vicinity. Since you was the good guy, having participated in cholera relief and being friendly with the Mukti Bahini, they are not sure what to do with him. Then he was detained for a short period of time, deported to Delhi, and I told him to get government credentials. And later on, he got the permission, and then he will tell all of the story. Welcome to the show, Mr. Bill.
Thank you.
Can you tell me what was your theme to go to Bangladesh and what you did over there?
Well, as you said in the introduction, I was in school in the United States, and we were reading the reports mainly from the London Times about what was happening in Bangladesh in the late summer and early fall. And it was really terrible, and everybody wanted to talk about it. And I imagined there might be something I could do, and I didn't know, and I just wanted to make some sort of contribution. So I did, in fact, sell my car to get a ticket and went to Calcutta. And in Calcutta, I met a number of people who were either refugee organizers or philanthropy organizers or some physicians. And so I found a group that was going into Bangladesh And there was an organization, it wasn't a very strong organization, of 3 Westerners and 16 Bangladeshis. And the goal was to take medicine into the Khulna district to treat a cholera epidemic that had just been reported. So we did that. And then, as you said, we were treating cholera for a little while and things were going fine. And then the Indian Army stopped us and said that we had to leave. They didn't know what to do. They just had orders to tell Westerners to leave. But we were popular with the Mukti Bahini, and they were nice to us. They actually put us in jail for a short time, for a day, but they were nice to us. They knew that we were the good guys. Right. And I said to one of them, look, it's really hot in here. There's water over there. Can we go swimming? He said, sure, you can go swimming. So he took his gun and escorted us. We had an escort to go to this body of water, and everybody went swimming. And then eventually, within a day, it was very short, within a day, sure. They let us go and said, get on the train and go to Delhi. They knew we would never get credentials. It was just a good way of getting us out of the country. It was a peaceful way to getting us out. So then I went to Delhi, and there were quite a number of journalists. I mean, I no longer had an auspices to work on cholera relief because we weren't allowed. So I met journalists who were there in Delhi, and they suggested I try to write something about what I'd seen. So I wrote something for the LA Times and also for the Boston Globe, which was just, photos and observations. And then I met the people at Time Magazine, and they said, well, look, if you've been with the guerrillas and you know the Mukti let us work with the government. We're Time Magazine. We can work with any government. And if we request something, we can get you in. So they did. And so then I became their sort of photojournalist from kind of the end of the war through the beginning of the peace. And so I went back to Dhaka, and I worked with the bureau chief, a fellow named Bill Stewart, who was in the head in Dhaka. And then he would, I would work for him, and I would go out and interview people and take photographs. And there was another fellow from Newsweek who was doing the same thing. And so it was very collegial, and we just would try to report as much as we could. And then the Liberation Day occurred, and a big parade, and everybody was very happy. And then there was a little while, a few weeks afterward, where I stayed and took more pictures and interviewed more people.
We want to see a lot of pictures that you took it, but just wondering to know, how long did you stay in Bangladesh during 1971?
Well, I guess from November through late January, early February. I would say, yeah, November through late January. Okay. So about 2-3 months.
Okay. What is the most significant things is really affect on your mind, because millions of people died during that war. And then, of course, he was a student that time, and he was very conscious, very good students. As far I know that now you are a research scientist working in a pharmaceutical company, but you almost sacrificed your life to help Bangladeshi people, Mukti Bahini, during that time. So we want to hear the emotion or involvement of your, part in Bangladesh.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. And one of the first thing I noticed, it took only a couple of days to notice that when you meet people from Bangladesh, they say you have eyes, you have ears, and you have feelings. And feelings were the center of the conversation. How are your feelings today? My feelings are good. And people bring their feelings right to the surface and feel very comfortable talking about their feelings, even if their profession is not poetry or music. Although I noticed people liked poetry and they liked music. People, I was reading Tagore, and they would often quote, and it was just a natural thing and a comfortable thing to talk about, to play music, talk about feelings. And so that was different from, and everybody who's lived in the United States knows we don't do that. We're much more reserved, and it was a new thing. So I got to meet people in a much more emotional way, and talk about how it was going for them and their families. And it was much more vivid. So it gave me a chance to photograph with a point of view of these people have their emotion close to the surface, and they would show it when I would take pictures. It would just be, they'd be very comfortable express how they felt.
Right. Mr. Bill, thank you so much. Viewers, Mr. Bill Finkle, he's a great journalist. He's a great, reporter and professional individual. He went over there, took a lot of pictures. So I want to say it in Bangla exactly what he said during this show. উনি বাংলাদেশে যখন মানে আমেরিকাতে তখন স্টুডেন্ট ছিলেন, ওনার একটা গাড়ি ছিল, সেই গাড়িটা বিক্রি করে উনি কলকাতাতে চলে গিয়েছিলেন। কলকাতাতে গিয়ে বাংলাদেশে এসে কলেরা ডিজিজে যারা মারা যাচ্ছে তাদেরকে সাহায্য করার চেষ্টা করেছেন। পরবর্তীকালে ওখানে ইন্ডিয়ান আর্মিরা তাকে পিক করে নিয়ে যায়, ডিটেন করে রাখে একদিনের জন্য। তারপরে তারা দেখে যে মানে উনি ভালো মানুষ, হ্যাঁ, সাহায্য করার জন্য আসছে, তারপরে ছেড়ে দেয় এবং উনি ওনার আরো জার্নালিস্ট নিয়ে বাংলাদেশে প্রবেশ করে টাইমস ম্যাগাজিনের একজন জার্নালিস্ট হিসেবে, এবং বাংলাদেশে ঢুকে 3 মাস যাবৎ প্রাণান্তর বিভিন্ন রকমের তথ্য উপাত্ত সংগ্রহ করেন। তো আমরা সেই তথ্যগুলোই দেখার চেষ্টা করব, যে ছবিগুলো উনি উঠিয়েছেন সেই ছবিগুলো আমরা ভিডিও করব আর উনি এক্সপ্লেন করবেন। সো Mr. Bill, now we want to show one of your picture and one by one, and you can explain to the viewers, well, where did you take this picture? What was the purpose to take that picture? So let's, Mr. Nippon, would you show that picture? Okay.
This photograph is on the way from Calcutta, on the road from Calcutta toward Khulna. And you can see this fellow is navigating his boat by using his foot and an oar. And he was obviously quite skillful. I certainly couldn't do that myself, but he was going right down the road with his foot and this oar. And so that's the reason I wanted to take the picture.
Okay, thank you. Next one, please.
Yeah, this is a guy who was just working. He was cleaning a piece of metal and completely indifferent to me or anybody around who might want to take pictures. And he was very relaxed, and he was just doing his job or doing something for himself to clean that piece of metal with the tools that he had available, which was just something to rub the metal, work on the metal with.
Next, please.
This is our party. It wasn't a very fancy party. This is the 16 Bangladeshis and 3 Westerners. We had this cart, and on the cart was medicine, and this is also on the way toward Khulna. And so in that cart, you can't see it, are various antibiotics, tetracycline and so forth, that were used to treat the cholera epidemic. So once we arrived at a village or a neighborhood, we had enough tetracycline and antibiotics to treat cholera. Cholera is a disease of dehydration. So you have to get rid of the infection and then treat the dehydration. It's an extraordinary illness because once you get it, all the body tries to expel everything at once. And a person might lose 30 pounds in a day. And so the only way to get the person to recover is to stop the infection so they won't be trying to push out water. And then you can then treat the infection with tetracycline and or whatever you want. And once it's cured, then you can rehydrate, and then you give water as the treatment. So it's a very simple treatment, but it's necessary to treat the antibiotic first because replacing the water will not work. So it was very serious, but once you stop the infection with tetracycline, you know, the wonders of medicine, then it's easy to replace the water and people recover quickly.
Is this the picture was taken November some point, 1971?
Get again?
You took this picture in November 1971?
I don't know.
Probably November. Okay. Some point. Okay.
I'm not in the picture. I'm in back of the frame, and the people are walking toward me. So I'm not, I don't remember it that well.
Okay, no problem.
Except I remember the team and the contents were antibiotics and water therapies and so on.
Next picture, please.
Okay, this is, again, when we arrived, this was a typical village, and this is where the cholera epidemic was taking place. So there's that child in front of the little hut. And so, but this is a typical hut. And I think in these kinds of huts, we would sometimes find people who had the illness. And once they realized what we were doing there, they would sometimes come out, or the family would come out, and then we could show them what we could do by giving them the drugs and then the water therapy.
Okay. Great job. I could not believe it that you have done such a wonderful job during that time, because millions of people died due to cholera disease in Bangladesh, India, around that area. But you did very noble work that time. Thank you so much. Please, next slides, please.
Okay, this is somebody who lived in the village, a very pretty young lady, and just one of many people, but sort of classic Bangladeshi young lady.
Okay.
Another, once again, a different person, but very serene, comfortable person. But as you see in the background, there's no food, so she's suffering, trying to find food, and there's very little food. I mean, the Pakistani army wiped out a lot of fields, and there was very little to eat. And so, in addition to the epidemic, there was risk of famine and so forth.
Yeah. Next slide, please.
Yeah, this is another picture illustrating the lack of food. You see this little girl with her cow. You see the cow has no food. She has no food. And in the background, there's no food. So she's looking for food, trying to get something for herself, her family, and the cow. And there's very, very little. I mean, this was the suffering that was very difficult to document by journalists, because you could only get 1 or 2 pictures into the Western press, and they really didn't want to see that. They wanted to see military things, but it was much more human. And that's kind of why I want to put the book out. We get more photographs of the experience of people who actually endured it, as opposed to the military photographs that were in the press.
Okay.
This is just a picture that I thought was curious, because, well, Bangladeshis are very peaceful people. These guns are from everywhere. The Americans, some of those guns are American, some Chinese, some Russian, some Indian. Everybody was putting guns in. Nobody was doing much work. They were just promoting the fighting. And those are guns from all over the world. This is the beginning of the refugee camps. I mean, that little baby is sort of a picture people have seen from refugee camps all over Cambodia, Darfur, everywhere you go where there's suffering like this, there's a refugee camp. And that's the consequence of dehydration, where the eyes get very big and the baby is unable to move around very much because there's no energy. And so that's common in refugee camps. This is just a guy. I kind of like this guy. He just seemed like he was his own guy. And everybody looks at this picture and says, I think I met that guy.
It looks very famous, right?
Yeah, he just looks like somebody knows or seen. And I actually showed this picture to friends in Silicon Valley who'd had a fairly young tech company. And there were a number of Bangladeshis who worked in the company. And one of them said, look at that guy. He looks just like Ramesh.
Right. You are absolutely right. He looks so familiar. His face is so familiar. And the way he dressed up, it seems like very familiar.
Very relaxed, very comfortable being photographed. Not everyone was. Not everybody was okay being photographed.
Right.
This is a little difficult to see, but this is a little bit afterward, when I returned from Delhi and I was visiting with this head of his group named Tiger Siddiqui. And in his camp were a number of children. So the children obliged the photographer by forming this pyramid. So when I was walking by, they made this pyramid with the child at the top saluting. And so you can see, you can't quite see it, but below they're making a pyramid so he could climb over them and get to the very top and salute. He's probably about 12 feet high.
Right. By the way, Kader Siddiqui, his full name is Kader Siddiqui. He's from Tangail, district of Tangail. Tangail is very close to Dhaka. So Kader Siddiqui formed a freedom fighter, and Pakistani army really scared about him because he was a real good fighter, and good leader too. So that Kader Siddiqui.
Yeah, he's a very famous person, and and he was the leader in this group. That was taken in Tangail.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he's a very powerful person. This is just a classic picture. You can't quite see everything, but there's 4 children on the ground learning how to become the Mukti Bahini. They're probably about 8 or 9 years old. And this picture was published in the Boston Globe because it was just, here are these children trying to learn how to fight. They've got helmets made of various materials. And then behind them are their older brothers who are telling them what to do, and they're trying to do a good job for their older brothers. And so they're standing, waiting for the kids to make another move. And so this was basically what you saw in the camp. And they're training, and they didn't know how long the war would last. I mean, fortunately, it didn't last so long that they would have to participate. It was almost over when this shot was taken, but they didn't know that. And so they were trying to do a good job. But what you see, and I think very vividly, the kids are really scared. And this is not what children should be doing. And yet this is what they were forced to do, and they wanted to do it, but they were scared to do it. So that's the idea of the photograph.
Okay. Next one, please.
And they didn't want to show their older brothers that they were scared. And here's a close-up of one of the children. He made that gun. It's not a real gun, but he made it so he could march. And you can see he's trying to do a good job. He's very little compared to the teenagers next to him, but you can also see he's very scared. I mean, you look at his eyes. He's not comfortable, but he's trying to do something. That's actually one of my favorite pictures. This is a picture of Tiger Siddiqui is in the middle. His principal aide is to the right. And then in between them is one of the young children. He's about 8 years old. But unlike the rest of the kids, he actually did get involved in action. And you see he has better clothing than the rest of the children. He looks almost British. I mean, he's got an ascot, and he looks like he's carrying a swagger stick, and he's got a little hat. Very, very British, and Siddiqui was the same way, a British look. But he was famous and rewarded by Siddiqui because the story was he had thrown a hand grenade into a truck. He got underneath a truck of Pakistani soldiers and threw a hand grenade into the truck and killed 8 Pakistani soldiers. So he was the hero of Siddiqui's camp. So he was very highly regarded. But again, he's about 9 years old. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Carry on.
Okay, we can hear the audio? Okay, good. I couldn't hear you for a minute. This is a photograph of a person who's fairly wealthy because he has a motorcycle. And you can't see in the photograph, but that's Tiger Siddiqui's father. And so they had some money, and he could afford to buy a motorcycle. This is sort of near the finish. This is the victory parade in Dhaka, and you can see the mood completely changed from being very frightened and very determined to win to being very happy and celebrating. And this celebration went on for a long time. So this was part of the victory parade in Dhaka. Okay, the last 2 pictures are the covers that were done at the time from Time magazine. The first one was called Conflict in Asia, India versus Pakistan. So you see Indira Gandhi and Yahya Khan on the cover of Time magazine when the group at Time believed the war was just about to start, but it hadn't started yet.
Hello.
I can hear you. I heard you say hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. Sorry.
Okay. And this is the photograph. Can you see the picture of this is the second Time cover, and this is after the success, and this is called The Bloody Birth of Bangladesh. And these were the two cover stories that Time did for the war, just before and then afterward.
Okay. Wonderful, wonderful.
It wasn't really just before. Bangladesh had been fighting for a long time. When I say just before India entered the war in December.
Wonderful. As far I know that you are writing a books, but very soon you're gonna finish up. When we are expecting to see that book?
Well, what I'm hoping now, I haven't done it yet, but I'm hoping is to make it available for the 50th anniversary. So try to get it out sometime next year and then make it available,
Okay.
Around the end of the year. So it would be, it's going to emphasize the photographs with a description of how they were taken, very much like the presentation you just requested. I mean, what you asked for is almost exactly what I had in mind for the book. And then I would, make it available in Bangladesh. But it takes a few agreements, but I think people would be willing to publish it. So I'm looking forward to it.
I'm inviting you to go to Bangladesh to see what's going on. There is a huge difference. You saw Bangladesh 1971, and now things has been changed a lot. So if you can come over to Bangladesh and see that new generation, what they're thinking about the liberation war, what they're thinking about, that American people, other people, they helped Bangladesh during the war. So would you be interested to take our invitation to go to Bangladesh?
Oh, yeah, I'd very much like to go to Bangladesh. I've been imagining I would go very often, and I just haven't gone. But it's one of those things. People try to imagine what they can do, but somehow they don't do it. But this being the 50th anniversary, I'm really going to try this year to finish the book and then to participate. Because, I spend time with Bangladeshi people in Los Angeles. There's a big community here that has celebrations in December and in March. And so I've met a number. And so I get a good feeling for what Bangladesh is like from talking, but there's nothing like visiting.
Okay, wonderful. As you know, in 21 February, the 21st of February, there is a book fair exhibition that basically all of the writers, they're writing their books and they're showing their books during that exhibition. Probably if vaccine and everything available during that time, I want you to come over 21st February to go to Bangladesh to see the book fair, Ekushe Boi Mela.
Yeah, I think it's too early. I know what you mean. The book fair would be a good occasion for this. It's a very good occasion. But, or that, or Mother Language Day in March, or the Liberation in December. Mm-hmm. But one of those would be a good occasion to do it. And I understand your point. Bangladesh has changed. It's gone from a very simple society to there's probably, I don't know how many engineers driving mopeds every day in Dhaka.
Right.
And there's now pollution from mopeds in Dhaka. And it's a much more vigorous society. We were talking before this presentation that this is similar to what we read about in the American Revolution, that in the Revolution, everybody was so excited and it was the most important thing in the world. But at the end of 20, 30, 40 years, the older people said, we should remember the revolution. And the younger people said, that's stupid. Let's just make money. We don't care about the revolution anymore. And the older wanted memories, and the younger said, we want our own. And you have to agree with the younger. The younger are right, and they should, everybody should go out and make their own. And so making money and working as a software engineer is a great pursuit of what one does.
And then exactly Bangladesh is doing that because Bangladesh now, the new generation, they're very educated. Our per capita is very high. The economy is doing good. The bridge of Padda, they made the history. So many other things they have done it that unbelievable. If we compare with Pakistan, India, the per capita, Bangladesh is doing much better than them. So, I mean, I think that we truly appreciate you that you went to Bangladesh during 1971 to help the people, help the poor people, help the people, those who are fighting for Bangladesh. And we are really so kind for you to be part of Bangladeshi community. Still, you are communicating with us, which truly appreciate that.
Oh, thank you very much. Very nice compliment. I appreciate it. Yeah, because I do remember it. I mean, it was. I mean, I think that if you were asking me what I was most impressed with, it was the attitude that we have nothing, you have tanks, we have nothing. You say we haven't a chance, we should surrender immediately. And Bangladeshis said, we shall see what will become of us. We would rather take our chances. And they did. And now look what has become of Bangladesh. They're ahead of Pakistan in some economic measures. They're way ahead in women's health. They're way ahead in women's education. They're really doing an extraordinary job, given that they didn't have a chance and they were told they were nothing. And now the oppressed have overtaken the oppressors in many ways.
Right, right. And thank you so much to coming this show. And I want you to say something for Bangladeshi people, Bangladeshi government. We are really so kind of you that you did such a wonderful job. There are millions of people, they are suffering, dying, but you sacrifice your, almost like sacrifice your life to go over there, try to help the people, which we never forget about it. Thank you so much. You want to say something for Bangladeshi people and Bangladeshi government?
The only thing I have to say is Joy Bangla.
Joy Bangla. Definitely. Joy Bangla. Joy Bangla. It was the slogan during that time. So thank you so much, Mr. Bill. I know you are living in California, which is like 3 hours ahead than New Jersey. And I wake you up early, but thanks for coming to show this show and participate and giving all of the important like all of the information that you had that we don't know about it, but you did it, and we are really glad about that. And thanks for your nice contribution during 1971.
Well, thank you for the invitation. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. দর্শক, এতক্ষণ আপনারা যেটি দেখলেন টাইমস 24 আমেরিকা টাইমসের একটি বিশেষ অনুষ্ঠান। এই অনুষ্ঠানটি আমেরিকান একজন ভদ্রলোক বিল, উনি গিয়েছিলেন বাংলাদেশে 1971-এ একজন ফটো সাংবাদিক হিসাবে, এবং কলেরা ডিজিজ যারা সাফার করছে তাদেরকে হেল্প করার জন্য। তাকে আজকে আমরা টাইমস 24-এর পক্ষ থেকে স্বাগত জানাচ্ছি এবং তার থেকে অনেক তথ্য আমরা জেনেছি। আপনারা আমাদের সাথে থাকার জন্য অনেক ধন্যবাদ। এন্ড থ্যাংক ইউ বিল অ্যাগেইন। থ্যাংক ইউ।
দাম দিয়ে কিনেছি বাংলা, কারোর দানে পাওয়া